Welcome everyone, Christine here with another episode of Malakai Makaisson's campaign in Warhammer 3 on Legendary difficulty against the most difficult AI. So AI aggression maxed, minor faction potential maxed. It is a bit of a mess of a campaign. I've managed to get the defensive alliance with Wulfric over here for a time being. It probably won't hold, but as long as he's occupied with various things, he's gonna leave me alone. I can easily beat him, that's not the problem, but I have bigger priorities than getting a border with Bellicor and having to deal with that. I am going to confederate from Brindle over here, though that's obviously going to affect my public order, but all the same. So right here, if I look at the situation, I can just directly get Brindle. Unfortunately, I bet he's probably not skilled up in the way I want him to be skilled up, so I am actually going to have to and what level is he? He's level 10. Okay. So I'm going to need to reset the skills and instead get a different lord to lead this army for the time being while his skills are being reset. So I've got organ guns to deal with. I've got a full stack over here to deal with the adventure in the north. I want to give Prague to Catherine so I can get help it back. You gotta love when the AI screws you over by taking one of the settlements you fought so hard for, because Arbol sent 3 stacks against me. I dealt with them, not Catherine. Prague was ruined, so I took it over, gonna rebuild it, get the barracks. Age of Reckoning is complete. How many grudges do I need in the Age of Reckoning? Only 4,000. I don't know how people manage to screw it up to the level that they get like hundreds of thousands of grudges. Like, I admit, maybe I'm just that active of a player. I have no idea. Regardless. So that's the situation over there. Don't want to deal with Wulfric. Want to go in the north. Maybe beat up the Demon Prince and ally Malus Darkblade, though the problem there is, you know, Boris Ursus and Malus Darkblade ending up in a war potentially. We'll see about that. Anyway. So, I'm gonna get Brindle here. I've got a Thane coming in. I'm lacking runesmiths, but I can recruit more Dragon Slayers, so I think I'm actually going to get one of these. Actually, both of them. Maybe. And use these guys in order to level them up. Start leveling them up. Maybe form another army when I can. Malakai is a high enough level with the Spirit of Groini that I can start getting Gyro bombers over here. That's, by the way, one of the things you actually want to do in Malakai. You want to get Gyro bomber recruitment on his Horde army. One of the things I start out with over here is an actual battle against Astragoth Ironhead in the provincial capital in the Goromandi Mountains. Now, this normally is supposed to be a siege, but Castorfs do have a tendency of taking settlements and not making them towers, so I ended up with a field battle. A field battle against a fairly large army, and I had mostly a flying army of gyrocopters as well as some melee units, regiments right now, and some artillery. So I parked my artillery right in a corner, and I let my gyro bombers and gyrocopters go to work. Though that was a bit trickier, because even though Astragoth did just have a bunch of Hobgoblin units, because Castorf's AI doesn't handle things for a long time in terms of unit recruitment, he did still have a pretty powerful garrison to support him, so this ended up being a bit costly in terms of the kind of casualties I would end up taking over here. So I have several armies at this point. Malakai is going to reinforce forces against Astragoth. I also got Brindle at about this stage. I'm dealing with Arbol at the stage, and then I'm also fighting these minor battles against the demons for the organ gun adventure. So this is a Sinnelleos army. The only reason I fought this battle manually is because they had seduced one of my Quarreler units, and I just didn't want to lose those Quarrelers right here. Though probably could have afforded to lose them all the same. Just decided to get on with it. Just decided to go fight with that, while other armies were busily invading the Demon Prince territory in order to fight more rogue army with Zork adventure armies in this situation. Now, with respect to the Demon Prince, I think he actually ended up being the biggest challenge I would end up facing in this campaign. Like, his actual army was not really that great, and I ended up fighting it in a siege where I had a bunch of thunders, artillery, iron drakes, etc. So, not really a challenging battle in any way, shape, or form. However, once I had dealt with that, I was moving my army along towards the next rogue army, and then I got hit by 2 armies of the Demon Prince led by some of his generals. So I was outnumbered more than 2 to 1 in this situation, because obviously with the kind of units I have, the actual model count is not very high. And I was in a bit of a sticky situation here, because I was not in a position where I could corner camp all that well. He also had a bunch of flying units that could be used to attack my artillery and my range units, my thunderers, and just close the gap and really do a lot of damage. Now, what I decided to do in this state of affairs is to actually just use a pass, if you will, in the battlefield. Like, you start on elevated terrain, but the enemy reinforcements were coming in behind me. So because of that, I couldn't just sit there. And there were a lot of enemy reinforcements. So I just put my troops in this pass where I was kind of able to bug out the AI to a certain extent and just push them in a kind of situation where the AI just didn't know what it was going to do. Because on one hand, the reinforcements were trying to hit me in the back line, but I had my melee units in the back line. It was also trying to advance in the front and just getting pulverized by thunderers. Like, it was getting to a decision dysfunction or decision paralysis over here, not knowing really where it wanted to commit its troops. And actually, funnily enough, when I was moving my troops around, it would then change its mind completely on the subject. This is a serious issue with AI. Like, but this was a pretty powerful, these were some pretty nasty armies. Like, the lords themselves, the units themselves, not necessarily the highest level, sure, not necessarily the best units. On one-on-one, my army obviously was better, but just because there's so many units. Also, they had the blue scribes, a hero, certain regiments of renown. So yeah, I was really going up against the entire bucket list of chaos over here. Chaos Giants, Bloodletters, if I'm not mistaken, heroes, legendary hero. Yeah, that was like, let's just say all we were missing here was Harold Hammerstorm, and because that would have just been perfect. But yeah, dealing with the blue scribes is a bit interesting. I mean, I was able to handle it, but yeah, I certainly was in a tough enough situation over there. But yeah, after that, it was pretty smooth sailing, dealing with what remained of Arbol, who I had pretty much long since defeated. And by the way, also doing a bunch of region trading with Kislev, trying to build my relationship. Like, it wasn't even about money, though I also, like, at least not for me, I have plenty of money. It was more so about trying to deprive Catherine of money so that I could actually get Help It, which I would eventually do in this campaign. And then I fought the Organ Gun quest battle, the final one, where Malakai just pays a visit to the realms of Khorne and beats up a bunch of bloodthirsters. I mean, this is a battle where you're supposed to bring a bunch of organ guns to annihilate the enemy forces, but Iron Drakes, cannons, and gyrocopters, as well as the Spirit of Grungni, as well as Gotrek, Felix, Gargrim, and Ulrika, just like, yeah, they just annihilated everything that stood in my path. So that was a fairly easy affair, and with that adventure complete, I could actually move on to the Thunder Barge adventure. And while I was and get a bunch of free Thunder Barges from Malakai. By the way, I gotta mention this about Thunder Barges. I have never ever recruited a single Thunder Barge in all the campaigns I've played in Malakai. And I've played a lot, hundreds and hundreds of hours. But I don't recruit them because I think that it's better to spend my money elsewhere. Like having more armies, I prefer gyro bombers and all that. But yeah, I was getting some Thunder Barges over here for free. Not because I needed them, but because it's just kind of funny. Also, I was striking an alliance between myself and Boris Ursus, of course, but also with Malice Darkblade. I was able to convince him, hey, can you want to abandon your alliance with Malekith? Sure, because I'm going to go beat the crap out of Malekith soon enough in this campaign once I get certain things sorted out. Like Norska, Wulfric, just declaring war on me and starting to send multiple armies against me, which, yeah, I was able to easily defeat those because, like, Norska is pretty rubbish at this point in the game. So, yeah, that was, like, not necessarily a whole lot in terms of, like, very interesting stuff. More like just, you know, clearing the path, dealing with Astrogoth, dealing with Arbol, dealing with the Demon Prince. Though this still took about 2 hours worth of work. You know, getting Rumbrindle, etc. Forgrim is wiped out. Ungrim is holding on by Fred. Zufbar might be willing to confederate, and I think, like, that's what I'm going to decide, whether or not I want to confederate Zufbar and potentially go deal with the vampire objective, because I do kind of want to, for the kind of benefits I get for Gyre Bombers. I do want to unlock that bell and get all those kind of sweet benefits. But I'm also encroaching on Grimgor's turf, which is, and Azag is also pretty strong at this stage. Though thankfully, it does seem that Vlad and Isabella have been suffering from the Empire quite a bit during the course of this campaign. So I do have a bunch of opportunities to go just beat the crap out of them, you know, complete those vampire grudges. But yeah, I'm kind of spreading myself a bit thin, and my concern is that Malice Darkblade and Boris are just going to end up fighting each other, which is, by the way, a real thing. So I've actually been selling territory to both of them and then getting them involved in wars of very distant factions so that they wouldn't end up fighting with each other, because that's one of the behaviors of the AI. If they're at war with a faction, chances are they're not necessarily going to declare war on another faction, because, like, that is a way for you to avoid your allies fighting each other in the game, and a very important thing. Like, yeah, getting a bunch of heroes development. I'm really developing the deeps as well in this particular campaign at this stage. But yeah, that's pretty much it for a moment. Lots of beating up. Poor Daniel. Just beat the crap out of him, though. Gotta give him credit. He did pose the biggest challenge, unlike Norska. Archeon died to Boris, pretty much. Kolic is still holding on. But, yeah. Next up, we get Grimgor to deal with. And maybe Vlad. I don't know. Maybe I should pay a visit to Vlad. Certainly Azag.